So, I know, it sounds so weird. Did Shah Jahan actually marry his own daughter? And with all the weird things that you hear about emperors doing in the past, is it really that difficult to believe? And now, before I delve into the story and give you all the details and the answer, you tell me first. Do you think it's possible? Do you think this happened? Let me know in the comments below and I'll give you till the end of my intro. Hi, my name is Misha and welcome to Tarihi Tales. Again, this video is also part of the Mughal series. If you want to see more videos on the Mughal Empire, head on down to the link in the description box. If you like our channel and if you'd like to help support our channel, we could use all the help in the world because we're a very small channel and there are multiple ways you can help us. You can go to our Patreon and become a paid member over there, or you could become a paid member of this YouTube channel with the link in the description box, and I'll also put one up here. If you're in Pakistan, you can help out with the number provided on screen. And you can also like, share, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff really helps us out as well. Now, if you'd like to watch the same video in Urdu, I have another channel where I'll be uploading the same video shot in Urdu/Hindi. And if you want to know where I get my information from, what are my sources, where exactly is all of this knowledge coming from, you can head on below with any of my videos. In the description box, you will always find citations and sources and works of historians and primary sources from where I'm getting my information, because I really do want that people go there and learn for themselves. Don't just take my word for it. Now, let's get back to the story. So we know that this story takes place in the time of Shah Jahan. And the daughter that we're talking about, the daughter in question, is one called Jahanara Begum. Now, Jahanara Begum was the daughter of Shah Jahan and his most favorite wife, Mumtaz Mahal. Now, how do you know it's his favorite wife? Well, Mumtaz Mahal is the woman for whom the Taj Mahal was actually built. So yeah, Shah Jahan really loved Mumtaz. Now, historians tell us that when Mumtaz Mahal actually passes away, Shah Jahan increasingly becomes dependent on his then 18-year-old daughter Jahanara to kind of manage the imperial household. Now, one thing to note about Jahanara, like when Mumtaz Mahal passed away and all, Jahanara was still unmarried. And the reason that I'm emphasizing that she's unmarried is because in other areas, in European courts or even in the Ottoman courts, most women would only come to a position of power after marriage. And even not then, even after marriage, when they had a son or something, then they would get some power. But things were kind of different in the Mughal court. Like in those courts, in the European and the Ottoman court, unmarried young women, nothing. They had no say whatsoever. They were unimportant. But in the Mughal court, things were actually quite different. And over here, we can actually find a lot of different examples of unmarried young women who have immense power, respect, and influence. And they exercise all of these things regularly. They're not like figures in the shadows waiting to be married to become something. It's very weird for me to even read all of this because even in my mind, I did not imagine the Mughal court to be this weirdly progressive. Now let's look at where this rumor or where this story of Shah Jahan marrying his own daughter started. Because in the case of Jahanara, her power and her influence at court was so great that when people came from abroad and visited the Mughal courts, they just could not fathom how a young, unmarried woman has so much power. And why does she have so much personal wealth? Where is all this money coming from? What is going on? So it's because of these things, this power and influence, and the fact that it was such a foreign concept for the foreigners, that they kind of came up with these rumors that, okay, Shah Jahan must be having illicit relationships with his own daughter. Otherwise, why would somebody give an unmarried young woman so much influence, power, and money? You know, it doesn't make sense. We have examples like the French jewel merchant called Jean-Baptiste Taverner. He described Jahanara's enormous personal wealth as a result of improper relations with Shah Jahan. There were other Europeans who had similar views as well, who came to the similar conclusions, because otherwise it didn't add up, right? But the answer to our question of the video, did Shah Jahan marry his own daughter, was no. Shah Jahan did not marry his own daughter. If Europeans actually understood the dynamics that were in the Mughal courts, especially for the women, they would not have been so shocked at the power and influence that Jahanara had, because there were other examples of the same kind of power and influence as well. Now, since we're saying power and influence, I was actually kind of interested to know how much power, how much influence. What was Jahanara doing that these Europeans were like, nah, she's got to be married or in a relationship? So let's talk about that. And when they talk about her personal wealth, how rich was she? Where did all the money actually come come from. Now, Shah Jahan fondly actually called her daughter a couple of different nicknames, among which we find names like Sabihat al-Zaman, meaning the mistress of her age. She was also called Padshah Begum, Padshah being the Persian word for Badshah, king. This basically meant lady king. And also Begum Sahib, which basically just means great lady. And turns out it is true, Jahanara was personally actually very rich. According to historians, she owned goods and cash above the value of 10 million rupees at that time, which is a huge number considering there was no inflation like it is today. Now, most of this money was actually left to her as inheritance by her mother Mumtaz Mahal, who gained a lot of that money through international trade. She had her own business. And just like her mother, Jahanara herself was also a businesswoman. She did get some initial money from her mother, but then she managed to grow that wealth and she was actually doing business, international trading with a lot of different Europeans. That's why they knew her so well, and that's why they knew about her wealth and they had all these theories about her. She mostly worked with Dutch merchants though. Now at this point I was also very shocked to learn that what? Mughal princesses were doing business, international business? What? Personally, not even like through the state or not even through their father themselves. It was their own thing. I mean, wow. And in the case of Jahanara, she was very rich, yes, but she didn't keep all the wealth to herself. She actually spent a lot of it back on her father's city, Shah Jahanabad, which now we know as Old Delhi. Between 1648 and 1650, Jahanara Begum built a mansion in her father's compound which overlooked the Yamuna River. Now she's also the princess that actually constructed a very famous marketplace, which I've never been to India, but I've heard about that marketplace through many different movies, and that is Chandni Chowk. So this is basically the princess that kind of designed the entire Chandni Chowk and brought it to life. Now the Chandni Chowk that she designed at that time had more than 1,500 shops, and a canal ran through the center of it, which helped kind of water rows and rows of shade trees. Now to the west of Chandni Chowk, Jahanara actually built one of the largest bathhouses and a huge caravanserai, which was basically like a hotel or a rest stop for travelers. This caravanserai was so big that it was considered the most imposing structure in the city after her father's newly built mosque, which was the Jame Masjid. And Jahara actually even talks about why she's doing all this. She's not just like a quiet person saying, no, I'm just making things. No, she tells us why exactly she's doing all of this. And she's reported to have said, I will build a sarai large and fine like no other in Hindustan. The wanderer who enters its courts will be restored in body and soul, and my name will never be forgotten. Well, up till now, she's right. It's not forgotten. Now, all of these constructions and all the fact that she's basically planning her father's city, she's doing whatever she wants to do and nobody's stopping her, does show that she does have a great bit of power. Like normal people are unable to do this. And her power is not just limited to like building things and infrastructure. You can see all of that seeping into court politics as well. She's actively participating in the court. And you could see more of that during the succession wars that followed. And it's within these succession wars that you actually really see again that how the Europeans are wrong in kind of fantasizing about Jahanara, because during the succession war we see other princesses also exercising their power and their influence and doing everything they can for their favorite candidate, just like Jahanara was doing. Another princess that we see during this succession battle is Roshanara, and she also actually has commissioned different gardens and different buildings. So as I mentioned, it's not uncommon for Mughal princesses or the ladies in the Mughal court to have a lot of power, influence and say. It's surprisingly modern, and I actually read a lot more about the Mughal harem, and I'll be making an entire video on what exactly was going on there. It's very fascinating and very different than even what I imagined, because nobody teaches us any of this, so we never know, unless you go and read about it yourself. The power struggle after Shah Jahan was between the Prince Aurangzeb and Dara Shikoh. And so the princesses of the court, Jahanara and Roshanara, also picked their favorite brother. Jahanara actually picked Dara Shikoh and Roshanara picked Aurangzeb. Each of these princesses did a lot for the succession battle. They passed messages, they rallied courtiers on the side that they wanted them to be at, they led different factions within the battle. And in the case of Jahanara, when her favorite brother Dara Shikoh actually lost the battle for succession, she even lived in exile, which was basically in the Agra fort with her father Shah Jahan. Now when later Shah Jahan actually passed away in 1666, Jahan actually returned to Shah Jahanabad, where the Emperor Aurangzeb then actually respectfully gave her one of the best mansions in the city, and where she stayed and did a lot of work and a lot of Sufi writing. And she also famously compiled her book, which is a biography of the Sufi Sheikh Muinuddin Chishti. Even after her father passing away and her favorite brother not ascending through the throne, she was still influential enough that before she died, she made sure that her death arrangements are made, and she put in requests and notices. And when she passed away, according to her wishes, she was actually buried in the courtyard at the shrine of the famous Chishti Sufi saint Nizamuddin Aulia. So there we go. I hope that answers the question as to whether Shah Jahan married his own daughter or not. Turns out it's just European fantasies. And because nowadays it is them who have won the recent battles, the histories we read are their versions. So we really have to dig deep to kind of understand that no, our lives were different than what they fantasize. Let me know what you think of this video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.